Rolling.
Definitely going to be off on that one. I was real slow on the countdown. To be perfectly honest. Yeah, I couldn't move my cursor fast enough.
Would you like to start again?
Nope.
Perfect. Let's do this.
So, as previously mentioned, we were talking about kids on our 100th episode and why one might be compelled to have them. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Catch the Sky podcast with your host, Sweet Tea. With me again this week is Dick Francisco to give the female perspective on this discussion. Hi, Dick.
Hey. Also the childless perspective. I'm childless over here.
Well, I mean, I'm childless as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But I think of you still as a child, T. It's because you're youthful.
I had somebody ask me today what college I went to, and I was like,
Yes. It's my
Still
favorite.
got it. Still got it.
Still
So,
got it.
If you care to find us on social media, you may find Dick on Instagram at @TheDickFrancisco or on Twitter at I'm Dick Francisco. You may find me on Twitter at CTS Terry or on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your barber, your mailman. The mailman has a big clientele, right?
I mean, mine doesn't, but I bet somebody's does.
What if you gave the mailman that stack of business cards and he just slipped it into everybody's mail? Is that legal?
Oh, my God. I don't know.
Probably not.
I guess we're going to have to find out.
Probably not. But as
I
we've
could
also
just start
previously...
slipping it in people's mailboxes, too.
Well, I know that's not legal, but I wonder if the mailman can do it.
That's really not legal? I'm not allowed to do that? Jeez.
No, but the mailman might be able to, because as
Yeah.
we've discussed previously, it seems like the mailman can just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, they're a federal agent of the government.
Yeah, they can just do whatever the fuck they want. They can just not deliver your mail.
Go postal if they want. Yes.
Absolutely.
They can go postal and not give, and cost us $20 for those fucking cookies that are still sitting in my house right now.
Listen, I ate as many as I could. There just wasn't any room for the fucking...
They also say Asian almond cookies on them, and maybe that was cultural appropriation. Sorry, not to go back to a previous episode, but...
How do we know that those almonds are really Asian?
Oh, we just don't.
So, Dick, we're talking children this week.
Yeah.
So we've decided that we would probably rather have children than an STD.
So I think in our previous episode, I may have
That's where this
chosen,
question spawned from.
Yeah, I may have chosen the STD over children. And here's the deal. While I'm still standing by that from a logical decision, because I believe that herpes is not a constant affliction relative to it just always being like inflamed and flaring up. And I believe children to be constantly inflamed and flaring up. When I just logically put those two things together, and probably the amount of money it takes to treat herpes versus to treat children, again, logically, the smart decision is herpes. But that isn't always how we're making decisions about childbearing and wanting to have children, is it, T?
Wait, you're saying that people might make these decisions based off their emotions?
I mean, and maybe, and what if it's physiological? Does that sometimes override logic? Like this idea of, you always hear that women have a ticking clock inside of them, that whole maternal clock thing that tells us.
My favorite term was gene dispensers. We're gene dispensers.
And I will say, since you said I was here to talk about the female perspective, it is 100% true that whatever that clock is, It is real. Now, do I say every single female has it? I'm sure there's some messed up ones who, popped out funny and don't have it. But generally speaking, as a biological female, and I don't say that to be offensive, just that notion of when your body is telling you that you're a female and you have the hormonal makeup of a female and the reproductive system of a female, and therefore everything else is operating as a female inside of your body.
Oh boy, I'm gonna take.
I'm not trying to go anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
I'm doing it. I'm taking it. I'm taking this tangent right now. I'm taking it.
There's a clock inside of us that tells us to have babies.
I'm taking it. There's a tangent. This fucking dude on Dr. Phil of all fucking shows was talking to some transgender people and asking them like what it's like to be a woman, and of course was putting them in. Putting them on the spot, and they weren't really prepared, I guess. But they also couldn't answer the question. And from his perspective, he was going straight biological. He was like, in 100 or 1,000 years, if they were to dig up your bones, they'd be able to tell if this was a man or a woman. They wouldn't, they don't know your personality or anything like that.
Well, and bone structure is only one of those things. But, when you start thinking about transgendered folks, and we're not going to get off on too far of a tangent on that, but it's an important one, of when they start changing their biology through, hormone replacement and things like that, a big part of me as a female is my hormonal makeup as well, because our hormones, both for men and women, they dictate a ton of things. And that's not just our emotional responses to things. It's everything from health and wellness is directly associated with our hormones. That's our histamine responses to things. What's that?
That can't be measured 100 or 1,000 years from now as your hormones.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
It goes down to your DNA.
You would find bones and you'd find DNA and things like that. But talking specifically today, for him to ask them what it feels like to be a female or a woman, and if they are on, some type of hormone treatments to make them be more essentially female biologically, if you will, through that process, there is a reality to what that means then to associate higher levels of estrogen in the body as female. And that's that commonality, or, higher levels of testosterone as masculine or male, even though we all have both kind of in our body. We definitely have both in our bodies. Really, what is that makeup of those in our bodies? And so what I will say from a female perspective is it is absolutely true that whatever this physiology is that makes me up, 100% I have been through that and still go through that process of my body telling me mentally, emotionally, physically that I should have children, because at the end of the day, that is what we were built to do. We are reproductive mammals that are intended to create offspring to maintain our species into the future. That's what we're supposed to do, 100%.
Not just maintain, but evolve.
Well, and I don't know if we're supposed to evolve. We are, but we certainly are supposed to keep procreating. That's for sure. That's what we do. Remember, we're like a herpes. We're like a virus. We're supposed to just keep procreating. So,
yeah, are we just gene dispensers? What's the...
But that becomes the great question, because our brains are so big and we're more complex, and so we have more capacities than just, simple organism that just recreates and procreates, to
Is this the
survive. We get to determine and discuss when should we have children then, and why do we have discussions about overpopulation? And so if you take basics of animals, many animals won't procreate or mate to have children or have babies, essentially, if they don't have the resources to keep those babies alive. And so, for instance, that's why there's mating seasons for animals. And so we don't have that, do we? In fact, you see that childbearing takes place and procreation goes up during times of stress. Why, when we're in war-torn countries, or when things are at their worst, or we're in the middle of a global pandemic, why do people, or an even better in a recession? So when resources to be able to take care of our offspring are at their worst state, is when we just decide we're going to fucking make babies. What is wrong with us? What are we doing?
I'm stressed out.
Right? So, well, yeah. And so logically, we seem to have lost our primitive ways of when we're supposed to be procreating and for what reason we're procreating, right? So back in the day, historically, ancestrally, right? You needed more bodies to, manage the camp and hunt and gather. And that's how you maintained society. You needed people to do that. So we have now moved so far from that back to your evolution concept. Have we really evolved? Sure. And so this evolution into the type of society we're living in now puts us in this position like you and I are in, going, well, I don't have to have children in order to work the farm out here, because I can just go get a landscaper to mow this lawn. Jesus, I don't need a baby for that.
Yeah, I got
so
Frank.
That's a bad reason. Like, I should definitely not have a baby to mow my lawn, right? And so, because that would be crazy. But then what is our decision making? Like, what is pressing our decision making to decide to make one of the most, I guess, profound and impactful and important and scary decisions to bring life into this world that you're responsible for?
This is the point that I made on episode Hundo, is that really it should be to bring you and your partner closer together. If you've decided that this is an experience that you want to go through together.
If you're that child, do you feel glad about the fact that you were brought into this world
out of your parents' love for each other?
Because your two parents wanted something that would bring them closer together and couldn't just get a fucking dog? Like, shouldn't the purpose be beyond us? Like, shouldn't the purpose be, like, how do we get back to those ancestral ways of the reason
because
people
once
are
you
being brought into this world is to make the world a better place?
Because once you bring the kid into the world to either be your lawnmower or give him some greater sense of purpose, then they have these expectations. There's these burdens on them. You got to be honest with the kid. Like, look, your mother and I just fucking wanted to see how this goes. We loved each other, and we wanted to fucking create something that would last beyond us, and hopefully.
But shouldn't we all have that expectation on us that the only purpose we have on this earth is to make it a better freaking place? Otherwise, why am I here? And so I hope my child, if I had one, knows that the only reason you are here is not for you and not for me, but to make everything better. Like, you think that, like, this concept of that being too much on a child is, no, we should be accountable. Things shouldn't be about us. And it's not that they're going to save the world, but if we stopped having children that thought the world was about them, because as soon as you bring a child into this world and those two parents are like, you know what, we brought you in for our legacy, the way that those parents then are going to feel about that child, they're going to do everything and anything to contrive that child's life for their own satisfaction. Because it's now
that's not
their
what
legacy.
I'm getting at.
Their legacy is now riding on this, the success of that child. So suddenly, well, I better make sure that I pay for that child's college and make sure he gets a job and make sure that everything is perfect in his life. Like, no. You have a freaking kid, you throw them in the pool, and you hope they swim.
Well,
or you get a pool fence.
Well, yeah.
That's why pool fences exist.
Well, yeah. No. I mean, I agree with you in that fact. There's definitely going to be some trial by fire, and that's what the parenting experience will bring. Is hopefully you will learn some lessons in love and patience that maybe you can't get from a dog.
But don't you think that expectation on those parents to have that child, in order for that child to bring them closer and to be their legacy, is the expectation that is unfair? Because what if that child pops, like, honestly, and I ask this to people all the time, before they're willing to have children, are you prepared for that child to be born with every and any issue, whether it's autism, whether it's Down syndrome, whether it's a disability, whether it's missing a leg, whether it's anything, and that child comes out that way? Are you prepared to raise that child with all of the reasons you said you brought that child into this world?
Well, this is Sparta, so no.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, God. So it's super fucked up, but so if we're getting back to the evolutionary aspect of things, kind of correct in their thinking, right? They wanted.
What do you mean?
They wanted the best genes.
Yeah. Absolutely. But then if that was really why we were childbearing and why we were having children these days, we would make better decisions about who we mate with and how we mate and when we mate.
That's
we would
what I'm
mate
saying.
We would mate when no, because you're doing it out of emotion, and emotion isn't how they made those decisions. Women that are on birth control, women that are on birth control. First of all, you've all heard this before. Back to our birth control episode. Women that are on birth control, your hormones are already being impacted in a way that is unnatural, and you are attracted to people that you shouldn't be attracted to, women. And that means that you are not attracted to something that is diverse enough genetically to pop out a child that is far better than what you're attracted to that is more similar to you. Like I said, you want to fuck your brother when you're on birth control. And therefore, then we get on birth control, we go and get with people. Suddenly we want to have babies with them. We make babies with them, and they're not genetically the best child. They're not, from an emotional standpoint, you're now in an unhappy and unhealthy relationship. Now, obviously, these are generalizations. I'm just saying we aren't making decisions by literally just picking the best gene pool in the genes every way possible to procreate for the future of the human race. We are getting emotional. We're falling in love. We're thinking somebody's hot and pretty and cute. You don't know what fucked up genes they might have in their family, and you're willing to fucking make a baby out of it. And next thing you know, everyone's got fucking arthritis and back pain and breast cancer.
So I'm going to say from my perspective as a male is that I've been called picky by some.
Okay.
And so I don't know if the women I'm going at are necessarily falling in the same description as me. Maybe some are, maybe some aren't. But
okay.
See, that would fall in line with what you just said. But I'm going for some of the better and the brighter ones here, right?
But I mean, and you can say that based on just your.
And then we know me, so I mean.
Well, naturally.
So no, yeah, so naturally, this kid is going to be.
You can say that when you evaluate
Tom
them,
Brady.
but like we're not doing genetic testing and using it for that purpose. Some people are these days.
Well,
but like
is that what I
really,
need to do? I mean, you don't need to test my genes to know that if I get with like a 7 or above, it's going to be Tom Brady.
And I don't know that because from a health perspective, like I don't know your health history. I don't know if you have heart murmurs in your background. I don't know if the gal that you got in that looks really hot might have rheumatoid arthritis or
seen me
you know the breast cancer gene, all of those things. Like if we're really talking about building and creating specimens that will live into the future and be the healthiest human beings possible, one, we haven't taken care of ourselves for generations to even be that in our genetic makeup, first of all.
Should just be cloning me like Star Wars.
Clearly, right? And then second, that's all that logical stuff, but we were childbearing and procreating for very different reasons back in the day. I'm not saying there wasn't emotion associated with it, but that's also why children were raised by a village. So that's where I get this bad rap of I'm anti-child. I don't like children. I hate children. I freaking love children. Children are the most amazing energy possible. It is heartbreaking to me that I don't get to contribute should we get into a situation in this world where we needed to suddenly make some kids. I don't get to be a part of that. But I do get to be a part of the raising of children. I get to contribute that and think of myself as somebody really capable of doing that. So why shouldn't I give those skills? But I also don't need to put my own child out into the world because there's plenty of them, right?
Yeah, I'll just ship any of my kids to you.
Yeah, for sure. Bring it on, T. I'm kidding. Please don't. Please don't.
Come on, it's
I'm good
a
with my
little T.
dog. I'm good with my dog.
Yeah,
but that's the whole thing. It's
dog.
Also, once a baby comes out,
Little dog rodeo.
Have we fully prepared humans? And this is my whole thing. This is why I say the concept of even having a child is the scariest freaking thing. It's not that we all wouldn't figure it out and there's no playbook and you just do it and the kid falls in the pool and you hope it swims and doesn't, drown to death, despite how many drownings there are every year. And so I would just say that I think we are also, as a society, ill-equipped because we don't put the right type of emphasis on when we should have children and the importance that it is not just a financial decision. It's not just a physical decision. It's not just a emotional decision. It's really this combination of everything. And are you mentally capable at the state that you are at to be able to have a child and raise a child? Because it is not fair to a child if you are not. If you ain't good, you should not have a child. You
Well,
should not
that's-
have a child because that's not fair.
Why do you think I haven't had any kids yet?
No, I know you and me both, T, you and me both, but that is not how people are making that decision. When they are in love with somebody and think that this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread for their relationship, that doesn't mean that individually they are mentally capable of what that means to bring a child into this world, especially in a nuclear family, the way that we have set up our society.
Yeah,
so it is
no.
not a village concept.
I'm with you.
A nuclear family means that every single expectation and every misstep, every responsibility is 100% on you guys as parents when you bring in a child, like that couple, right? Think about that expectation. Think about that expectation. That is an unhealthy, unnatural amount of stress that you put on somebody in the most stressful experience ever. Why do we not rally around people when they're having kids?
Well, this is why.
Because too many people are having them and we're not doing it in the village concept.
Oh, and this is also why I have decided that I'd like to try and retire as early as possible so that if I do have children, that I will be the most available to them as possible.
Yeah.
Because I realize that we don't have this village concept, so at least I can be as present as possible in order to try and wear as many hats as possible to kind of mimic the village model.
Yeah.
I could be the blacksmith and the baker.
Sounds like a plan, T. No, I really think, there's what I have recognized, and I've experienced this working, in schools, working, with kids just at any given point, that this nuclear family and this concept of why people are now having children and that possession that they feel over their child is so stifling to a child that it doesn't then allow that child to grow out of that and create their own accountability and their own experiences. And at the same time, I think it also puts that parent in a position to make poor decisions about their children when it comes to their ability to just grow or have experiences. And that I think has resulted then in the type of society that we have where there's a lack of accountability for people. They aren't, if you have enough money, you'll get bailed out kind of thing, right? And instead, people then think that the world revolves around them, and we live in an enabling codependent society versus one that we see beyond ourselves because we're being born into these nuclear families like that. Because it's selfish, right? You belong to me, and in order for me to succeed as a parent, you have to succeed, and therefore I will let nothing happen that doesn't result in my success as the parent.
Yeah, I mean, that's how some people look at it. That's definitely how my parents
But I think that's a pretty common way to look at it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Again, working in the schools, my child can do no wrong, right?
And I think the way that I would try to look at it would be to expect failure and to be prepared for what to do in those situations and approach it in a calm way and understanding that this is a learning opportunity. This is what you signed up for with having a kid, right?
Yeah.
No parent wants to pick their kid up from the jail at 4 a.m., but sometimes it happens, right?
Yeah.
This is just part of being a parent. You got to expect the worst. You don't want the worst, but you got to be prepared for it. And so for me, I wouldn't go out there expecting the best because then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. I'd almost just expect the worst because kids are little fuckers.
Indeed. And
like you don't want to approach
right?
every situation that way because then you don't want to manifest a self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak. You don't want to have the worst outcome with your children. You don't want to constantly be expecting the worst and then have them kind of grow with that mindset like, oh, they just think I'm a piece of shit kind of deal. But you got to be prepared for the worst. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yep. Kids.
Fuck 'em.
Kids.
So what are the pros and cons of even fucking having these things? Because as I'm looking at it from an alien passing by, this swarm is growing rather quickly on this planet. From 69 to 2019, the population doubled from approximately 3.5 to over 7 billion people. And we're closing in on 8 bills now, so in spite of a pandemic.
Wait, what did you say? You trailed off.
We're closing in on 8 bills.
What?
In spite of a pandemic, 8 billion people.
Oh, 8 bills. Sorry. Yeah. Jeez. So remember, back to cultural appropriation. I don't know if I've listened to as much white hip hop as you.
Billies.
Jesus. Okay. Sorry. 8
Is
bills.
it
Noted.
Should I call them Billies?
Yeah, there it was. I would have gotten that. I was like, I was struggling there.
8 Billies.
8 billies. Yeah. Oh, for sure. We continue to procreate at an exorbitant rate, but that isn't then accounting for, again, this concept of unwanted children and poverty and how many children don't have homes and don't have food and proper nutrition for those that do have food. Are we treating our children across the board the way that they should be as a generalization before we start adding more? Like, if we cannot as a society take care of our children, what are we doing creating more?
So
I mean, honestly.
So a con.
Unless I just need somebody to mow my lawn.
A con is they consume resources that sometimes the parent is not able or willing to provide. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, and I would say the only reason I'm struggling with that is because the con isn't even on the child, though. That's on the parent who had the child without the proper resources.
Right.
But yes, they do consume resources. So don't have a child if you don't have the resources to provide for it.
Right. Another con. They cry and wake you up in the middle of the night.
Huge con. That crying thing. Oh my God. Huge con.
Another con. They just get into general mischief.
Because they're curious. I do love that about children.
I mean, yeah, it was fun, but I graduated from kindergarten a long time ago, so I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to go back there yet.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, because they are exhausting, right? They're 100% exhausting. You don't sleep much with them because they're just nonstop.
Well, this is why I want to make sure, for the record, that I clarify, I am totally open to having children, but it needs to be with the right partner. So
under the right circumstances, in the right time in your life, when you're mentally stable enough to have one.
Correct.
Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not just going to go and just have a kid just because I feel like my clock is ticking.
That it'll fix you, because it won't.
Right. Correct. It should be a means to bring you and your partner closer together than you already are. Not closer together because you aren't already close. It shouldn't be like a Band-Aid for your relationship. So, yeah. I'm getting into enough mischief as it is. I don't know if I need my kid getting into mischief as well. Because who's going to bail out who?
And that's the reality of once you've already done all the mischief, right? And you're older and wiser and your kid starts to, all the tricks, sucker. I was like, you think this kid's going to get around me? I know what he is up to because I did that.
Well, that's what they said about me and my parents, but yet I was still able to climb out onto my porch roof and jump into the front lawn. And
oh, yeah. And I hope so, right? Did we not turn out just fine? I did all kinds of shit.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it made me who I am, and I'm kind of okay with me.
Surprisingly, my ankles were fine when I was jumping off of the porch roof, but when I fell down the stairs the other day. For the record, it is March 29th, 2022. And we're trying to figure out the pros and cons of having children right now, focusing on the cons list. So we'll get the bad out of the way. Let's see what else. The shit everywhere. There's just
Oh my
like
God,
so
right?
it's bad
Yeah.
enough that I've got Frank shit all over the backyard right now because the snow
Yeah.
it's melting still.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of poop back there, but just poop in the house all over the place.
Yeah. Just all up on themselves.
Jesus
Constantly.
Christ. It's just a lot
Yeah,
to
it's a
deal
thing.
with. It's a lot to deal
It
with.
is.
And you know, like
I mean, and it's scary because you're also kind of responsible for them for 18 years. So like if they go do fucked up things, you become responsible for those things.
well, there's juvie, right? You could just
Yeah, but there's still some element of like let's say
I could emancipate
I had a
them,
child.
right?
I had a child. Let's say I had a child in this room right now, and like I was just turned this way, and it wandered out this door, and then wandered out into the street, and then the police picked it up because it was having a situation, and I, as the parent, am in trouble for neglect,
Yeah.
even though that stupid shithead is the one that walked away when it knew it wasn't supposed to. Like it knew
Right.
the rules.
Oh yeah.
I was very
yeah.
clear about the
Oh,
rules.
can I tell you a story lately
Of course.
that I experienced with a couple of kids? So these are my cousin's kids. So I don't know. They're in some way, shape, or form my cousin too. But they are playing in the basement while visiting my parents. And I'm doing something on the computer. I don't know. I was printing something off. Probably something that I didn't get in the mail. And things are getting a little rougher. And I'm like, you know, take it easy. Don't hit each other. Like, don't hurt each other. And of course, things are getting rougher and rougher. And I'm just like, whatever. Like, if they fuck each other up, I don't really care.
Right? Yeah. Look,
Because
Lord of the Flies.
Because again, it's not my kid. Like, so, and of course, one
Oh, for sure.
punches the other one in the lip. Starts bleeding. Cousin comes downstairs like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. I told him not to when they did. And it's like, what the, and it's just like, what am I supposed, I don't want to grab somebody else's kids or try to separate them or anything because I don't feel that level of responsibility for those kids. In this village concept, like I don't have, like I feel weird because there's people that are super weird about you
Well, that's what I
telling
was going to say.
anything to their kids.
Yeah, we've gotten so far away from it and that we're so possessive then of that child of ours that we don't let other people then do that. Right? And so think about the disadvantage to that child, because for those children to actually have someone other than their parents be an authority figure to them, to actually put them in their place, is a really humbling experience for a child. And they should be able to have those because in society, we're humbled all the time by each other. And we should be capable of, respecting each other. And it shouldn't just be this notion of, I only have to listen to my mom or my dad. And I was like, that's why I stopped working in the schools. Because I said, fuck that. I'm gonna hit a kid. not because I want to, but because he needs to get hit. Not that we condone hitting children. It's just I am the same size as a child. And so... And the first thing those kids say to me is, my mom's a lawyer. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, quit my job. like you got me. Like,
Quit my job.
I didn't have a better answer, right? And then this is what happens. See, this is what happens.
Pussy.
That's what that child says, right? That is what that child says. And then you quit your job that day and you go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go work with adults.
Oh my God.
God. And now you all wonder why I have a child phobia.
Gives you the double bird on the way out.
Seriously.
Hits you with the Degeneration X. Just suck it.
Absolutely. Shaking his Apple iPhone at me like I'm about to call my mom, right? I got her law firm on speed dial. Like, stop.
God, Jesus.
All because I told you to sit down. Yeah, what are you going to do
These
about
are all
it?
cons. These are all cons.
Yeah, we're still on the con list. Yeah, okay, got it.
Oh my
Pros,
God.
that child made me quit my job and get a way better one. And here I am today.
There we go. There it is.
Thank you, dumbass child.
Oh my God. Wow, that's great. Whew. What are the other pros?
Pros. Oh, we're back onto pros now, or we're on to pros now.
Yes. Should bring you and your partner closer together, right? From
I
my
mean, you can put that on
perspective.
your pro list. It's not on mine, but yeah.
Well, it should. Because if
Yeah, but
all your
I'm not putting that as a pro.
but if
I don't like the idea of another human being a catalyst for bringing me and my partner close to each other. I don't like it, but that's just me.
well then don't make something that's 50-50 you and your partner.
I'm just saying. It's just not my thing.
Because
But here's what I will say about children. They are like a portal to curiosity and expanding our horizons and our minds, because as we get older as adults, we actually complicate and confine how we think, and we are not candid and we are not as honest as we should be, and we are risk averse, and they are none of those things, and that is so beneficial.
that's
for
why
our brains.
kids have unadulterated fun. Unadulterated fun. Think about it. Think about it. As adults, we become adulterated.
It's true. It's true. That's why they're unadulterated, and we are just adult rated.
Yes.
Rated. Yes, it's true. It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And I get some of that is important for survival. Like jumping off a roof now seems far more scary than it did when I was a child. And that is also because the risks are higher when I break bones now than when they were if I was a child and broke a bone. And so that's a good one. That's a good reason to be risk averse. But
I
think
booty's involved. I mean,
I'm
it's
just
a
saying
porch
children,
roof.
though, you know, they're closer to the ground. Not that I should talk. And so onward and upward, you fall, you get back up. You fail, you fail fast. And so,
It's
yeah,
only like
I would
8
say
to 10 feet or 12 feet. Like,
I'm just saying, yeah, but when
that's
you're
not much for booty.
I'm just saying. But nonetheless, I would say that is a huge pro for children, is that influence is really important. They're also super energetic, so they keep you active. So they are a good workout plan.
One of my favorite moments is, I can't remember the movie. The premise, though, is the two parents die and basically leave their kid to their two friends that don't necessarily like each other. It's a rom-com. And you're like,
I was just trying to like, which one? I don't know rom-coms.
yeah, I forget what it's called. But the moment where the child begins to take its first steps, the chick is up in the bathtub and the dude's downstairs and he's like, oh, she's gonna walk. And she's like, oh, no. Stop her. I want to see it. And so the dude pushes the baby down, like pushes it on its head.
Jesus.
And that's me as a father right now. That's where I'm at, basically.
So I don't think you've ever heard the stories of when Safe and I traveled to Germany.
I heard
took a
about
trip.
Drew Carey.
God. Oh, yeah. That's right. We were going to do a whole episode on celebrity sightings one of these days. So this was 2000. I should know, the 6 for the World Cup. Was that 2005? Nonetheless, 2006. And yeah, so it was the World Cup 2006 in Germany. And we were staying with a friend that he had met at ASU, and she had a baby. His name was Malik. And this child was like the hugest baby you've ever seen, like linebacker baby, legit. I think his father was Nigerian, and so he popped out like 6'7" or something. Nice. Nonetheless, he was this big ass baby, right? And the two of us are looking at each other like, the fuck are we supposed to do with this thing? Because at one point she like handed it to us, and she's like, I gotta go. And we were like, all right, we got this. And like they fed that kid pounds of liver And he loved it. And now I'm realizing I love that kid too for loving liver. But at that time, I was just amazed at how much this kid could put down. It was like UT. It was wild. And so he was shitting himself all the time though. And so at one point we like smelled this kid and we are like, well, I feel like we got to do something about this. And so we were like, well, I think to change a diaper, you have to lay them down. Like you shouldn't do it while holding them up in the air, I guess. Gravity, right? Mm-hmm. So Safe goes to lay the kid down on the floor, on the hardwood floor. But I guess you're supposed to support its head. And its head was ginormous for the record. And there was definitely no hand to put behind that head. And that head bounced on the floor.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. No, the kid is fine. For the record, everyone, kid is just fine. I think he's a semi-pro golfer, maybe. I saw pictures of him when he was like 5 with a golf club. So I'm pretty sure he's legit. Nonetheless, that was one of those like, no. We are not, like, both of us are not people who know what to do with a child in life. And so why would someone hand a child over to people who clearly shouldn't have children in their hands?
Right.
I was like, oh my God, this is wild. We're like, meanwhile, why are we not just drinking beer and watching soccer?
Right. Like, how did we end up with this kid?
And yeah, why would somebody hand 2 drunk people who came to Germany to watch the World Cup a child?
Right. Can we take this kid to the game?
That's on her 100%. But then I started thinking, this kid's going to get us into places, right? And so then I realized in Germany, I am the size of a child. And so I didn't have to worry about it because anywhere I wanted to go, I got in for the child price. Legit. They think they thought I was a child. But that's one of those pros is they can, like, you get a tax credit for having children. So you get for having a dependent, you get tax credits for that. I don't think it makes up for how much they cost, but you get some money out of it every year. And they can, if you train them right, do like house chores and get you things. Like right
elves.
now, it would be super awesome if I had somebody to go get me like just some water. But I don't. But if I had a child, they could do that for me.
There it is. The original remote control.
Yup.
That's a pro. Except we don't need them for that anymore. But I guess they can run some errands, mow my lawn.
Yeah.
But we're getting to the point where we've got like iRobot lawnmowers now.
Well, and really, T, maybe that's where I'm at on this is I would have maybe been a proponent for why a new generation of children, again, the smart, intelligent, genetically superior ones that, oh, Jesus, I just said genetically superior as if like, don't worry, I'm not going eugenics on anybody. I'm just saying, healthy and, people, kids being created. I would have been on board with that. But I think kids are a thing of the past and robots are in. Kids are out, robots are in, right?
Stephen Hawking warned that with this rise of being able to manipulate genes prior to birth and everything like that, that we are going to see basically a superior human race that is just smarter, stronger, faster, superior in basically every way, genetically, to what we are now. Almost
when can
not
we start
like a
breeding?
Homo sapien,
Yeah, because I want to start crossbreeding with robots. So kind of like a plug-in hybrid. I'm not ready to go full electric. I still want it to have a little bit of gas in it. I kind of want the same thing with like the future generation where it's like RoboCop, where like it's half human, half robot, right? Is that what RoboCop was? Nonetheless, I want a little bit of that. So like we have to start mating with robots. So it's half robot before we go to full robot.
Is there a way that you could maybe get like, oh my God.
Uh-oh. And I'm sure there's porn out there for this. That better not be what you're looking for right now. Eyes on the prize here.
Is there any way you could get like a war veteran or an amputee that's just got a bunch of robot appendages? I think that's the closest that we have at the moment.
Oh, for sure. I just didn't know if we're going to get to the stage where we can mate with them and actually procreate.
No, yeah, I don't know how we get there.
Well, that's something we're going to have to look towards the future for. Maybe a science fair project, kids. Anyone out there? Jesus. And this is why I don't have kids. Hey, Johnny, what are you doing for the science fair this year? You want to figure out how to procreate with robots? That'll win. Oh, God.
You get a call from the science teacher, and she's just like, why did Johnny bring a sex doll
right.
in with his cardboard trifold?
I can't. Seriously.
Well, you see.
Again, degenerate over here. I'm not passing the test. That used to be a thing too, but that was also very eugenics. We might need to do an episode on eugenics just because it's so terrible. But was that whole like you have to pass a test to be able to have children? But like obviously who's creating the questions on that test matters. Jesus.
Right.
Should I just touch on what eugenics is as a definition? I'm going to. And then we can talk about it fully and completely at another time. But
okay.
Just because we're talking about childbearing and how to make that decision and what makes, why we should or shouldn't, and the concept of bringing healthy people into the world. So eugenics is the study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable. That statement in and of itself doesn't sound terrible. Because that's really what we're saying. We're saying, should we not be reproducing to bring in, to create the most viable future for the human race?
One could argue that is how evolution should naturally proceed.
Potentially, right? But now when humans get involved and start doing these things like eugenics and arranging, and they're the ones making those decisions, the manual override. It was developed by Sir Francis Galton as a method of improving the human race. Eugenics was increasingly discredited as unscientific and racially biased during the 20th century, especially after the adoption of its doctrines by the Nazis in order to justify their treatment of Jews, disabled people, and other minority groups. And so really it became this whole, how do we create the people that we want? And it was like super, super racist.
Right.
Damn.
Right. And so...
But in and of itself, shouldn't we want desirable characteristics of like animals do that? So and this is where...
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I was about to say
something really offensive that I'm not going to say.
No, that's fine. I look at... did you watch Game of Thrones?
Nope.
There is a woman on Game of Thrones.
I mean, I watched like 2 episodes and the sex scenes didn't do it for me because I was told they were going to be amazing and they weren't. So,
did you watch the morning show?
I started to, but the sex scenes were also there were 0 of those, so I'm kidding. Right. I did start watching the morning show.
All right. Do you remember? I forget what her name is. The
blonde one.
No,
Reese Witherspoon.
No. The chick that
Jennifer Aniston
booked people.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about character-wise.
Yes. So she's also in Game of Thrones, but I remember commenting when I saw her in Game of Thrones, I'm like, she is like the most perfect blend of what our species could be. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, and I mean that in the least offensive way. Like, I mean that like as a compliment. Like, she's super beautiful, but you see that she has characteristics from various backgrounds.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, the DNA stars really lined up for her.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a big dick, but I wish it were just a little bigger. I think every guy does.
That's what I hear. And again, that's an episode for another time, is all about size. We can talk about size all day long.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
more about what you do with it.
Wouldn't mind being in the double digits. I think it'd be great.
Jesus.
Silence. There's silence. Where's the crickets?
Speechless over here. Speechless.
Oh my God. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Dick, is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I'm going to go work on a science project right now, so no, I'm good.
ordering sex doll from South Korea.
Bing.
So if you care to comment on why you have kids, or why we shouldn't have kids, or why we should have kids, or anything else related to children, feel free to get at us on social media. You can find Dick on Instagram at the Dick Francisco, on Twitter at I'm Dick Francisco. You can find me on Twitter at CTS Terry, or on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast. Be sure to follow, subscribe, like. Be sure to share with your mailman, your dentist, if you still go to those.
Nope. My landscaper.
Oh,
Since I don't have children, I need someone to mow my lawn.
Yeah. I'm sure that they go to a lot of places. A lot of land. They got a big,
A lot of land escape.
a lot of land escape.
A lot of land escape.
Your dry cleaner.
Ooh, yeah. I've never been to one of those, but could start.
Yeah. We could tap into a whole fancy clientele. All the people that get their clothes dry cleaned.
My fishmonger.
Your bank.
I don't have one of those, but if I did have a fishmonger, I would also let him know.
Oh man. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode, and until next week, keep trying to catch the sky.